I am Vasil Lomachenko. You're watching Dante's Boxing Nation.
Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So Gennady Golovkin, he held a press conference today to announce his deal with DAZN. Now, I told you guys in one of the very last videos that I did about Gennady Golovkin that I thought it was unfair that Canelo Alvarez, he has to fight somewhat of a playoff type of opponent in Danny Jacobs, while Gennady Golovkin, he gets to take a soft touch without having to win any playoff game. And speaking of the playoff analogy, it would have looked more like a tournament if Gennady Golovkin would have fought the WBO middleweight champion Demetrius Andrade, while Canelo Alvarez is fighting against the IBF middleweight champion Danny Jacobs. And then when they face each other for a third fight, if both Golovkin and Canelo were successful, they would be fighting to unify all the belts. That would make far more sense. And that is what the fans want. The fans want to see the best fight the best. So Gennady Golovkin, he actually did an interview and he was asked that question. He was asked, if Canelo Alvarez has to fight Danny Jacobs to get a third fight with you, shouldn't you fight someone like a Demetrius Andrade so you guys can fight in a unification bout? And this is what Gennady Golovkin said. Triple G, he said, well, all fights are dangerous. There's no such thing as not a dangerous fight. So we'll look at all the fights and we never choose the fight that's less dangerous. That's why it's interesting to fight on DAZN, because DAZN has all of the interesting fights. End quote. Did you guys just hear what Golovkin said? He said he never chooses the least dangerous fight. But the reports and rumors are right now, Golovkin, he may be choosing Kamil Zuremeta, if I said that name right. Now, Kamil is 19-0 with 4 knockouts. Now, Kamil is ranked. He's ranked number 2 by the WBC. But the thing is, Gennady Golovkin, he could have fought the actual champion. He could have fought the WBO champion, Demetrius Andrade. Now, there's no guarantee that he's going to fight this Kamil guy. But knowing Gennady Golovkin's history, whenever his team threw out some names saying that they're possibly going to fight this guy or that guy, they always ended up fighting the least dangerous opponent on that list. Case in point, when Canelo Alvarez tested positive for PEDs, Gennady Golovkin, he had some really good options on the table. He had his number 1 mandatory, the undefeated Sergey Demetrius. Then he had his number 1 WBC mandatory, Jamal Charlo, and he decided to fight against Vanes Martirosyan. So what does that mean when Golovkin says every fight is dangerous? I mean, that's like saying every neighborhood in the world is dangerous. But yet you live in the safest neighborhood. You live in the suburbs, in a gated community. I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing to say when Gennady Golovkin does not want to fight the most dangerous opponent. So while you have all these other middleweights, Danny Jacobs, Canelo Alvarez, Demetrius Andrade, Charlo, willing to go through those dangerous neighborhoods, you have Gennady Golovkin refusing to leave his safe, gated community. But just like I said in my last video about this topic, I have faith in Eddie Hearn and DAZN that they're going to make Golovkin eventually fight a tough opponent outside of Canelo Alvarez, because it would be completely criminal if Gennady Golovkin got away with 6 fights on DAZN, not fighting against any of the top 5 middleweights. And I'm gonna tell you something else. Actions speak louder than words. And when you think about the fact that Golovkin, he only has confidence in fighting Canelo Alvarez. Do you guys notice that? He has no confidence in fighting a Demetrius Andrade, a Jamal Charlo, anyone like that. He only has confidence in fighting Canelo Alvarez. And we know that logically makes sense because Canelo Alvarez himself, he even admitted that he believed Danny Jacobs is a more dangerous, a more difficult fight than a Gennady Golovkin fight. Once again, for some of the fans that said, oh, well, of course he said that, he just said that to promote the fight. But that's not true, because Canelo had never said that about Golovkin. He had never said that about Rocky Fielding, Liam Smith, Amir Khan, Matthew Hatton. He had never said that about any of those fighters. You know, it's really crazy with Gennady Golovkin, because when Golovkin was dreaming to win all of the belts, now all of a sudden he has champions that are offering him a title shot, and he doesn't want to take it because it's too dangerous. Before, fans were saying, oh, well, he's just chasing money, etc., etc. He can't even use the money excuse anymore, because now DAZN, they're going to pay Golovkin the money he wants to fight dangerous opponents like Demetrius Andrade, like a Danny Jacobs, in a rematch if Danny Jacobs were to beat Canelo Alvarez. Something else I want to clear up, I want to reiterate and say this again, because I told you guys in this last video, it's very important to say this. Canelo Alvarez, he gets more credit for fighting this version of Danny Jacobs. Because when Golovkin fought against Danny Jacobs, Golovkin was going into that fight thinking, this is just a guy that has already been knocked out before. This is going to be an easy knockout. That's what all the fans were saying. All the fans, they were calling Danny Jacobs a bum, just like they call Charlo a bum. You know, they were saying that Danny Jacobs, he has no chin, he's a bum, and he ain't going to go no more than 3 rounds. But now, since Golovkin seen how difficult Danny Jacobs was, now he looks at him differently. So he's not in that much of a hurry to get in the ring with him. But if Danny Jacobs were to pull off the upset, which is going to be very hard for Danny Jacobs, because once again, you cannot get a decision over Canelo if the fight is close. But like I said, in a scenario of Danny Jacobs winning that fight, I believe DAZN, they're going to put tremendous pressure on Golovkin to take the rematch. Hopefully, once again, man, hopefully DAZN, they do us right. Hopefully DAZN, they do us right, and they force this man, Gennady Golovkin, to fight some of the best middleweights. Because a guy that has been promoted as this big monster, this knockout artist monster, should not be fighting against a guy with 4 knockouts, while Canelo Alvarez has to fight against Danny Jacobs. Demetrius Andrade is trying to fight against BJ Saunders and everyone at the middleweight division. Jermall Charlo is Canelo's mandatory. He's been trying to fight Canelo and Golovkin for quite some time. So Golovkin should not be privileged to cherry pick while everyone else is trying to fight the best middleweights. Let's see what DAZN decides to do. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one.